At exactly 9:17 on a bright Monday morning, 24-year-old Adrian Vale stood outside the glass doors of one of the most powerful companies in the city, holding the last copy of his resume in his trembling hands. He had spent months preparing for this interview. One job could change everything for him. It could pay his overdue bills, help his struggling mother, and finally give him the chance to build the future he had dreamed about since college. But within minutes, Adrian would make a decision that seemed certain to destroy that opportunity forever. He would walk away from the most important interview of his life to help a girl he had never met, never knowing that she was the daughter of the very CEO who was about to decide his future. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in doing the right thing, leave a comment, and subscribe to Little Kindness Tales. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories like this to you. Adrian had not been born into comfort. His father had passed away when Adrian was still in school, leaving his mother, Maribel, to raise him alone. She worked long hours at a small neighborhood bakery, often returning home exhausted with flour still covering the sleeves of her uniform. Adrian learned early that life did not always reward hard work immediately. Sometimes it demanded patience, sacrifice, and courage before giving anything back. That morning, he wore the only dark blue suit he owned. It was slightly loose around the shoulders and had been carefully repaired by his mother the night before. She had pressed the shirt collar, polished his old shoes, and placed a small handwritten note inside his jacket pocket. Adrian had not opened it yet because he was afraid he might become emotional before the interview. The company was called Northbridge Innovations, a rapidly growing technology firm known for its demanding hiring process and extremely selective management team. Adrian had applied for a junior project coordinator position. Hundreds of applicants had competed for it, but after several online tests and 2 rounds of interviews, he had reached the final stage. The position was more than a job to him. It was a doorway. He checked the time and took a deep breath before entering the building. Then he heard someone calling for help. A young woman standing near the sidewalk had dropped a folder, and papers were scattering across the pavement in the afternoon breeze. She hurried to gather them, but one of the papers slipped beneath a parked vehicle. At the same moment, another document was carried toward the street. Adrian looked toward the company entrance. Only 12 minutes remained before his scheduled interview. He hesitated. Every second mattered. Then he saw the young woman step toward the road without noticing a bicycle approaching from the opposite direction. Adrian immediately moved forward and gently guided her back toward the sidewalk while catching the loose papers before they disappeared into traffic. The girl looked startled and embarrassed. She was about Adrian's age, dressed simply in a light blue blouse and dark trousers, with shoulder-length brown hair loosely tied behind her head. She had been trying to gather everything by herself and seemed overwhelmed. Adrian helped collect the remaining papers and handed them back to her. She thanked him repeatedly, but Adrian only smiled and told her that anyone would have done the same. He glanced at his watch. 9 minutes. He hurried toward the entrance. But before he reached it, the girl suddenly called after him. One of her documents had fallen into his hand without him noticing. Adrian stopped, turned around, and walked back. That small delay cost him another 3 minutes. When he finally entered the building, the receptionist informed him that the interview panel had already begun reviewing the candidates and that the hiring manager had a strict schedule. Adrian explained what had happened. The receptionist looked sympathetic but told him there was nothing she could do. He sat in the waiting area, trying to control his breathing. After nearly 15 minutes, a company assistant approached and told him that the interview slot had been given to another candidate because Adrian had failed to arrive on time. For a moment, Adrian simply stared at her. He wanted to explain everything. He wanted to say that he had not been late because he overslept or because he did not care. He had been late because he stopped to help someone. But he knew how excuses sounded. So he thanked the assistant and walked back outside. The bright afternoon sky seemed strangely cold. Adrian sat on a bench across from the building and finally opened the note his mother had placed inside his jacket. It contained only a few lines. She had written that she was proud of him regardless of what happened, and that getting a job was important, but becoming the kind of person who could look back at his choices without shame was even more important. Adrian smiled sadly. He had lost the opportunity. At least, that was what he believed. Meanwhile, inside Northbridge Innovations, the same young woman Adrian had helped walked through a private entrance and entered an executive elevator. Her name was Alara Quinn. She was not an employee. She was the daughter of the company's founder and CEO, Vincent Quinn. Alara had deliberately dressed simply that morning because she wanted to visit the company without being recognized. Her father had been encouraging her to understand the organization from the ground up before deciding whether she wanted to join the family business. She had been carrying several internal documents when she accidentally dropped them outside. But there was something Adrian did not know. One of the documents he had picked up contained confidential information about an upcoming company project. Adrian had returned it without even looking at the contents. Alara reached her father's office and placed the folder on his desk. Vincent immediately noticed her expression. She explained what had happened. At first, her father was amused that his daughter had managed to create such chaos during a simple visit. But when she described the young man who had stopped to help her, Vincent became thoughtful. He asked whether the young man had known who she was. Alara shook her head. That detail mattered. Vincent had spent years watching people change their behavior when they discovered his position. Employees became unusually polite. Strangers suddenly wanted favors. Job applicants tried to impress him by saying exactly what they thought he wanted to hear. But this young man had helped Alara before knowing anything about her. Vincent asked for the name of the job candidate who had missed the interview. Alara remembered the name written on the resume she had briefly seen when Adrian introduced himself. Adrian Vale. Vincent instructed his assistant to find out what had happened. Within an hour, he received the report. Adrian had arrived late. He had no previous connection to the company. He had a strong academic record, excellent recommendations, and several months of volunteer work at a community learning center. Vincent looked at the report again. Then he asked a surprising question. He wanted Adrian's interview restored. The assistant explained that the position had already been offered to another candidate. Vincent paused. Then he said that an interview was not a reward. It was an opportunity to discover someone's character and ability. The next morning, Adrian received a phone call. He almost ignored it. When he answered, he was told that Northbridge Innovations wanted to reschedule his interview. Adrian was confused. He asked why. The assistant simply told him that the hiring team had reviewed his application again and wanted another opportunity to speak with him. Adrian arrived the following afternoon. This time, he entered the building with no expectations. The interview room contained 3 executives, including Vincent Quinn. Adrian recognized him immediately. The CEO asked about his education, his work experience, and his approach to solving difficult problems. Adrian answered honestly. He did not pretend to know things he did not know. When he made mistakes, he admitted them. When asked about leadership, he explained that leadership was not about being the loudest person in a room. It was about noticing what needed to be done and taking responsibility. Then Vincent asked him a question that changed the entire atmosphere. He asked Adrian why he had risked missing the interview for a stranger. Adrian looked down for a moment before answering. He said that he had not thought about whether helping her would benefit him. He had simply seen someone who needed assistance. Vincent leaned back in his chair. Then he asked Adrian whether he regretted losing the opportunity. Adrian smiled. He admitted that he had been disappointed. He had needed the job badly. But he did not regret helping her. There was silence in the room. Then the door opened. Alara walked inside. Adrian immediately recognized her. His eyes widened. She smiled. He finally understood. The young woman he had helped was the CEO's daughter. Adrian suddenly worried that the entire situation had been arranged because of her. But Vincent surprised him. He explained that Adrian had not been given the job because he helped Alara. He had been given another chance because his actions revealed something that no resume could fully demonstrate. Character. The company offered Adrian the position. But Vincent also made another decision. He asked Adrian whether he would be willing to help develop a community outreach program that would provide technology training and career guidance to young people who could not afford private education. Adrian accepted. Months passed. Adrian worked harder than anyone expected. He learned quickly, treated every colleague with respect, and never forgot where he came from. His mother remained proud of him, and the small handwritten note stayed inside the same jacket pocket he had worn on that first morning. Alara eventually joined the company as well, not because she was the CEO's daughter, but because she wanted to prove that she could contribute something meaningful. One afternoon, Vincent watched Adrian speaking to a group of students during the company's first community training event. The young man who had once sat alone on a sidewalk believing his career had ended was now helping others discover opportunities he had once thought were impossible. Vincent quietly told Alara that sometimes the most valuable qualities in a person were impossible to measure during a traditional interview. Alara smiled and replied that perhaps Adrian had not lost his job opportunity that morning after all. Perhaps he had simply taken a different road toward it. Adrian never became obsessed with the fact that his kindness had been noticed by a CEO. He often reminded people that if the girl outside the building had been anyone else, he still would have stopped. That was the lesson he carried with him. A good deed does not become more valuable because an important person witnesses it. Kindness matters even when nobody is watching. And sometimes, the moment you believe you have lost everything can secretly be the moment your life begins moving in an entirely new direction. If this story touched your heart, please support the video by liking it, sharing it with someone who could use a little hope, and subscribing to Little Kindness Tales. Every interaction helps these stories reach more people who believe that compassion, honesty, and second chances still matter. Before we end, I have one special request. Comment, "Kindness always matters," below if you believe doing the right thing is worth it even when nobody is watching. Adrian once thought that helping a stranger had cost him the biggest opportunity of his life. Instead, that one choice revealed the kind of person he truly was. And sometimes, the greatest doors in life do not open because you chased them. They open because, when someone needed you, you stopped long enough to help. The opportunity Adrian thought he had lost was never really lost. It was simply waiting for the right moment to find him.